Hi everybody, welcome to the fourth episode of the IX Studio Modeling Series. In this episode, we will be preparing our models for final texture and fixing any issues that may arise during modeling so that texturing can be a smooth and clean process. We will learn the importance of Object Data Properties tab, we'll use some modifiers to fix shading issues, and solve some common problems that arise during the process. So now we're at a point of our model where we've gathered our reference, we've figured out how to navigate around the scene, we've modeled our object, and now we've UV'd our object. Now we have the object almost ready to bring into Substance Painter, but there's a few things that we have to do. Firstly, we want to make sure that there's no shading artifacts in our object, and that we have what we want in terms of shading. Suppose we wanted to make this lake smooth. What we could do is we could click on the object, and then right click and hit Shade Smooth. But you'll notice there's some issues up top. The super dark edges are shading artifacts. This is caused because it thinks you want to make the cube a cylinder. To fix these issues, what you can do is you can go to the Object Data Properties tab, and then open the Normals tab, and then right click on your object and hit Enshade Auto Smooth, and then adjust the Auto Smooth angle. The angle that we currently have for the Auto Smooth does a good job on most of it, but at the bottom you'll notice there's still an issue, so let's increase the Auto Smooth angle just a little bit more. Now sometimes you might run into the issue where you'll have those shading artifact issues, but you have your Auto Smooth on and the angle is set correctly. The solution to this is adding a weighted normals modifier. In our case, because the table is a pretty simple model, we don't have any issues, and we won't have any need for the weighted normals, but it's best practices to always add one on. We've set up our object and we've UV'd it. We have the UV checker grid on it, it looks good. Where do we go next from here? Importing, exporting. This is mostly a problem solving episode, so I'm going to try to demonstrate a few issues that you might run into and the solutions to those issues. So now what we're going to do is you're going to want to select all of your object, go to the top left, File, Export, FBX, and then hit the little Selected Objects checkmark. It'll export only the objects that you have selected in the 3D viewport. So that right there is the table exported. We can bring it into Substance Painter and start texturing now. Cool. There might be a few issues that have arisen, so let's solve those now. Some issues you might run into might be things like one of the islands may be slightly outside of the UV boundary, and Substance Painter will refuse to load the model at all. So let's see what happens when you try to do that. So let's start a Substance Painter file. Go up to the top left, File, New, and where it says Select across from File, select the table FBX. I'm going to set the document resolution to 4096 and change our normal map format to OpenGL, as that's the one Roblox uses. You'll notice in the bottom left an error message shows up, and it says that one of the UV islands is outside of the boundary. This is because I moved one of our islands slightly out to demonstrate this issue. On this tabletop, one of the edges is slightly outside. To remedy this issue, just check around the perimeter of your UV border and see if there's anything poking between tiles. And if so, move them back in. Another issue that might have come up is UV overlap. Suppose the side slat UVs for our side slats were slightly bigger and they overlap with the top of the table. Well, this is what would happen. I'm going to repeat the same import process. This time it will open up our scene and let us start texturing. But you'll notice two things. When we start painting on our model, the paint that we do on one side will be on the other side because it's a mirrored UV. But also, when we paint towards the edge of the table, the paint will be on the wooden slats as well. This is because of the UV overlap. You'll also notice that the legs are turned inside out, and that the legs have really weird shading. It's because inside of Blender, I forgot to check face orientation. The way to check this is to go to the two overlapping circles, click the little drop-down menu, and check the face orientation box. It'll show you both blue and red faces. Red faces mean that those are back faces. You want to fix those. To fix that, what you can do is you can press tab on the object, select A, and then Shift N to fix the normals. Let's fix any issues with overlap, and then now that we have that, we can export it back into Substance Painter and start texturing. Once again, let's start a new project. So now we can see that there's no issues and we're ready to start. For the ease of demonstration, I'm going to add a wood smart material. The reason for doing this is to check wood grain orientation. So what I'm looking at here is the grain of the wood. The grain of the wood is flowing left to right, which is exactly what I want. Currently, the flow of everything looks fine, so we can progress. But if it wasn't fine for you, what you can do is you can go back into Blender, change the orientation of some of your UV islands, and that will change how the wood grain will flow. Now, there may be a few other issues that arise, depending on how you modeled the objects. Mostly, if you've gotten to the point where we are now, your model is good and you're ready to go. An issue that might arise is overlapping or duplicated vertices. So right here, I've duplicated a part of the model to demonstrate this issue. It doesn't look like it's doubled up, but if I click on the edge and move one of them, you'll see that it is in fact doubled up. When you have duplicate vertices, the solution to this is by pressing A, M, and then merge by distance. Now, when you do this, it'll merge every vertice that's directly overlapping. But you can also change with the slider at which distance it will merge vertices.